Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day. There was a bit of a fire scare last week, which threw everything off, seeing that my wife was home all the time. Well, not all the time, but it really kind of screws with the filming schedule of this if I don't really have the time and there's someone in the small space. Even if she's being quiet, it's just really awkward for me to do this. So I'm going to continue with Superman 93 with the second story, Jimmy Olsen's Double, because everybody in the DC universe eventually gets a doppelganger, or more than one doppelganger, sometimes unintentionally because the artist kind of draws people similar. Remember when I used to complain in the first couple issues of Action Comics, like maybe for the first 10 or 20 issues, Joe Shuster's dark haired women all kind of just looked like Lois. And there was a bit of a problem of me assuming that a dark haired woman for a few pages was Lois and then revealed it wasn't Lois. It was never like a huge confusion, but it was annoying. Here, Jimmy gets replaced by a mobster's lackey named Babyface, who looks just like Jimmy because they believe Jimmy, being Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, that was the name of this comic book if you didn't know that, being his best friend, being Superman's best friend, he could possibly know or find out who Superman is. So, this is all a story about trying to find out who Superman's secret identity is and maybe get away with doing stuff if they have that information, mainly blackmailing him. Though I don't think blackmailing the man god you can't harm is a very good idea to start with. The thing is, I don't have a lot to say about this story, which is kind of sad coming back from basically Christmas and this to not have much to say about a comic. The problem is, what this comic ends up being is Clark just being kind of confused and just weird by how, or kind of weirded out by how Jimmy's just acting kind of strange, to him kind of figuring out what's going on, because of course Superman's going to eventually figure out what's going on, and it being a cakewalk to solve this. It's not much of a challenge for Superman to deal with. It's also odd because in the 1950s, his secret identity became a big deal. It's what a lot of the stories are about, or at least the subplot with Lois. And that's the weird part. Lois isn't in the story at all. And it's like her main thrust or motivation for most stories in the 1950s is to find out if Clark Kent is really Superman. So her presence lacking is noticeable. That and her trying to some way get Superman to marry her, which is also really insulting to Lois. At least the other one involves her investigative journalism in some way. But it's nice that Jimmy gets a story, seeing that he didn't seem to exist for almost 5 to 6 years in the comics. Sort of, because he was never mentioned. I guess someone in the background could have been Jimmy. We've been over this before in other episodes, but yeah, Jimmy kind of didn't exist there for from like the late 40s to like 1953 or 4. So it's nice just to have him back and sort of doing something. He doesn't really actually do much other than get knocked out in the story and then saved by Superman. Because that's what all side characters eventually do in a Superman story. It's mainly to be some sort of damsel in distress, even when they're not damsels. So I'm just kind of like walking around the problems with the story. There's nothing particularly awful about it, but it's not held together very well. It's just Superman being confused for the first half and then saving the day to a criminal who, honestly, he probably could have gone through the rest of his life ignoring. And when they do think it's Clark, he just simply comes up with a nice lie for it. So it's not even that hard for him to get out of this because he always is able to do that. Luckily, due to his superpowers, being able to change anything he needs to undo their evidence. That is it from Superman 93, Jimmy Olsen's Double. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover a Batman story, either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the Man of Tomorrow. What do you think Superman's doppelgangers are doing? There's been at least one, possibly two over the course of this. Okay, have a great day.